welcome to this week's edition of High Events for High TV. I'm Lalanga Dhanapala, and tonight we are up on the 17th floor of the Innovation Tower to witness history in the making, not to be a contradiction, but this is the temporary home of the Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art. Tonight we'll be interviewing a few individuals who are considered the visionaries of this particular exhibition. The exhibition is called 100,000 Small Tales. The chief curator's name is Shamini Pereira. She brought this particular exhibition in from Dhaka from last year, and we are just privileged to be here. So please join us and find out a little bit more. With me, the chief curator of this beautiful exhibition, Shamini Pereira. Thank you so much for your time. You look exhausted, so thank you. I appreciate you saying a few words for us. Now, tell us, this exhibition is obviously very important to you. In a few words, how would you describe it?
I describe it as a first for Sri Lanka, not because of the content, not because of the artist, not because of really the fact that it's come together as something that we see as an exhibition. I describe it as something that's a first because we want to launch an initiative that it is part of, and this is an initiative to establish a museum dedicated to modern and contemporary art, and that's why this exhibition is important for that reason only, that it is launching as part of that initiative. And I hope that in the years to come that there will be exhibitions that will far surpass this one, that will be much more research, that will include different kinds of artists, that will look at the histories of art in Sri Lanka from all the perspectives that we really do need to. But we are involved with research and we are involved with engaging the public.
Now, this particular museum is focusing in on the 20th and 21st century art specifically. How do you see Sri Lanka motivating and inspiring the younger generation of artists that are up and coming? What do you think needs to happen to give them the boldness to express self through this medium?
I think with younger artists, particularly in the context of Sri Lanka, it's really hard for them to explain to their parents, I want to be an artist. My parents also had no idea about the art world, but I think what this museum will do is help people in the country understand that art is a profession. Artists need to make money, they're also recognized, and they're a really important part of society.
I'm here with one of the committee members here at the museum, the beautiful Ramali Mirchandani. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Tell us now, this is the first of its kind in Sri Lanka. Tell us a little bit about the journey. What was it like actually building from ground zero up to be here tonight? You must be having some wonderful feelings about your accomplishment.
Yes, it's wonderful to see it up and running finally. It's been in the making for about 4 years. The idea was mooted by actually Abbas and Ajit and some of the other members on the board of the museum. And I think the whole idea really was that we shouldn't wait until we have a building, dedicated building to this Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art. And when Linda offered this floor space in this brand new building, we just decided, let's go with it and set it up. So it's very much a work in progress, a museum in progress. And the whole idea is, I think, to develop and build a museum culture in Sri Lanka, especially targeting the younger generation.
Tell us, you mentioned 4 years in the making. What factors were being considered over those 4 years to get to here? What was important to the board as Sri Lanka? What was going through the minds of those involved?
The fact that we have an amazingly rich culture, Sri Lanka, that we have fantastically talented, younger and living artists whose work sometimes they really tell a story, and we have had so many really key and life-changing events in the country. Art is a fantastic way to reach people, to tell that story. I think, our education system doesn't really encourage people to be excited about our history. But art has, I think, the ability to do that. And this is meant to be very much an interactive exhibition.
Speaking with Abbas, one of the committee members of this fantastic museum, thank you so much for your time. Excited to be here tonight. Tell us a little bit about how the board got together and decided to fill this vacuum that's been existing in Sri Lanka in terms of the lack of contemporary and modern art, a place where people can come and express themselves. How was the process in terms of making that happen?
Well, several years ago, many of us who are interested in art, who have been collectors and looked at studying of art, we realized that there was a complete vacuum in the space in Sri Lanka to do with modern and contemporary art. We felt there was a vacuum which needed to be filled. And a few of us got together and so see how we could do it. The idea was one day to build a purpose-built museum of modern and contemporary art.
Tell us, when it came to deciding which show to feature as your launch, the significance of 100,000 small tales. Give us a little bit of information about that.
See, any one of these shows take at least 2 years in the making, because these things have to be researched, have to be studied, have to be obtained. Conditions sometimes are not great, so one has to conserve this artwork. So it takes generally 2 to 2+ years. But here we had the opportunity to use this space. Linda Speldovin, the owner of this building, she offered this space free of charge for a period, which is great. And so we thought, well, it has to be done. But she wanted it to happen soon, and so did we. So there was one ready-made show which was shown in Dhaka at the Dhaka Art Summit 2 years ago, curated by Shamini Perra, who's also curating this show. So there was actually, we found a ready-made show of world-class standard, which we could actually bring together in a shorter time frame.
Mr. Chandradas Bhatta, one of the founding committee members, tell us a little bit about the process that was gone through to bring together a group of people who would have the same vision regarding filling this void with the lack of contemporary and modern art in Sri Lanka. Tell us a little bit about the individuals and why they were a part of the committee.
Well, I think the key thing was there was a moment, I think a few years ago, when many Sri Lankans I knew and who were friends of mine happened to be in major art institutions around the world. And we've always felt a void that we needed a museum of modern art, something that discussed what was happening in our society at this moment in time, not something that happened just in the past. So it was a question of having these conversations with them, and we all felt, well, it's perhaps time that we try to connect with, say, people who are interested but who are not in the art scene, who might be able to bring to the table the kind of finances, the kind of influence they might have with society to perhaps start an institution like this. I know there were some ideas from government as well who thought, oh, perhaps we should have this, but nothing came of it. So a few years ago, say 3 years ago, we decided, well, perhaps we need to come together, create this.
I suppose it's like everyone looks at one picture and we'll see something different.
Of course, exactly. I mean, you can look around this space and some people will read each picture in their own way, and they'll read their own thing into it. Of course, what it's doing is they're trying to bring together different works under different thematics, which will then speak to you and to each other, and maybe tell us a wider story about our society.
I'm here with Linda, head of the AOD. This beautiful facility has been opened up for this museum to be housing here for a short period of time. Tell us what went through your mind when they came to you and said that they would like this to be their home.
Yeah, so I think for Sri Lanka, AOD has been, I guess, a driving force behind Sri Lanka's art and design, modern art movement. So I think, there's a lot of wealth that Sri Lanka already has. If you look at the board behind the museum. So my idea was how can we facilitate all of that to be retained in Sri Lanka and use their network to keep it for our country. So when obviously AOD is part of the Colombo Innovation Tower, it's our building, but we wanted to develop this whole ecosystem with art, design, all of that for Sri Lanka.
I have the pleasure of speaking with Saskia from the Saskia Fernando Gallery. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Now tell us, why do you feel that having such an institution in Sri Lanka is important?
Well, having such an institution in any art scene anywhere in the world is incredibly important, and we haven't had a museum of contemporary and modern art in Colombo, despite the fact that for decades there's been a lot happening with both our modern and contemporary art scene. So this kind of an institution will bring everything together in a very important way, act as a sort of core, and also be very important in terms of educating the local audience and the visiting audience. So it's very exciting for us as galleries, and for the artists as well, to have this kind of an institution that will represent the amazing work that has been done over the last decades in this country.
Speaking to Norma, one of Sri Lanka's most renowned artists. A pleasure to speak to you this evening. Now, you are visiting tonight. I was told that you don't have any of your work here tonight, but what are your thoughts about this particular museum? I'm sure you're excited about the...
Very excited, and it's wonderful to have such an amazing space, location, very central location. This amazing floor, and the layout is amazing. And I think it's a very interesting exhibition that Shamini has curated and was also shown earlier in Dhaka. And it's great I think a lot of us know a lot of this work, but it's lovely to see it together. And it's lovely that finally, there is a museum in Colombo, in Sri Lanka.
Visiting the museum tonight, I have with me someone who's very prominent in the art world in Sri Lanka, Mr. Kaysara Vibhishana. Now, tell us your thoughts about this incredibly exciting step that's being taken by individuals here who belong to the world of art, contemporary art. What are your thoughts regarding that, being so involved in the field in Sri Lanka?
Well, as an artist, any expansion of the arts can only be a good thing. But I think that has to be challenged as well. And I think this particular Contemporary Museum of Modern Art really helps to do that. Because the last thing we need is a proliferation in just one direction. And I think Sri Lanka is uniquely in that place where it is hungry for that. And it needs as much of a a blossoming in as wide a range of artistic sort of endeavors.
So do you feel this exhibition, I saw you wandering around, do you feel this particular exhibition was a great choice for young ones, especially the younger generation, to come visit, to be inspired and to just want to express themselves as well? Do you feel this was a good choice?
I feel that it goes beyond being a good or a bad choice. I think, and that's what art is as well, and that's what I try to impart to those who come to me also for that kind of input. I think you really need to look at going beyond that simple black and white, good and bad, and I think that's really a message that this exhibition brings, that this particular choice of it brings, and it makes people ask those questions.
Speaking to Ms. Nadya Sambaiah from the John Keels Foundation. Now tell me, ma'am, what was it about this particular venture that got the attention of the John Keels Foundation? Why was it important to them to be a part of this venture?
Thank you. So the Foundation's been supporting Sri Lankan arts and culture for over 30 years. And we have several initiatives, including Kalapala, the Gratian Trust, the Vajrachitra Trainer Foundation, websites. But in this roadmap of taking Sri Lankan art to its rightful place and to achieve international recognition, we've realized that museums are a key factor. The collection of Sri Lankan art by international museums and the showcasing of Sri Lankan art in a proper way in Sri Lankan museums. It is that last factor, even more than the buying or selling of art, that is going to give us the international recognition that I think a lot of our art rightfully deserves.
Brings us to the end of another edition of High Events for High TV, a wonderfully exciting night where finally in Sri Lanka we have a place where modern and contemporary art can be on showcase, giving a platform for artists both here in Sri Lanka and from overseas to present their work. An exciting time for Sri Lanka. For High TV, I'm Nalanga Dhanapala.